The morning sky turned black as 300 alien ships blocked out the sun. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in the command center deep underground, watching the radar screens fill with red dots. Each dot was bigger than a city block. Each one carried enough firepower to level entire countries. "Sir, they're positioning themselves over every major city," reported Colonel Lisa Harper, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, London, Tokyo. They've got us surrounded." Jack nodded grimly. He had fought in 3 wars, but nothing had prepared him for this. The ships were sleek and dark, like giant metal serpents floating in the sky. Strange symbols glowed along their hulls in colors that hurt to look at. "What do we know about them?" Jack asked. Dr. Alex Turner stepped forward, clutching a tablet full of data. "We're calling them Draconians based on their ship designs. They appear to be reptilian. Our satellites caught glimpses of their technology before they jammed our communications. Admiral, their weapons are centuries ahead of ours." On the main screen, the first Draconian ship opened fire. A beam of pure energy lanced down from the sky and struck the center of downtown Denver. The entire city block simply vanished. No explosion, no fire, just empty space where buildings had stood moments before. "My God," whispered someone in the back of the room. More beams followed. Military bases disappeared. Aircraft carriers turned to dust. The pride of Earth's military forces were erased like chalk marks on a blackboard. The aliens weren't even trying hard. They were making a statement. Captain Ray Bennett's voice crackled over the radio from his fighter jet. "Command, this is Lightning Squadron. We're moving to engage the lead ship over Washington." "Ray, negative, stand down," Jack shouted into his microphone. "Your missiles won't even scratch their shields." "Someone has to try, sir." Jack watched on the screen as 12 human fighter jets, tiny as gnats, flew toward the massive alien vessel. The Draconian ship didn't even slow down. Energy bolts flicked out like a giant swatting flies. In seconds, all 12 jets were gone. "Ray, come in." "Ray, respond," Jack called, but only static answered. Dr. Katie Sullivan burst into the command center, her lab coat stained with coffee and her hair wild from running. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their scanning patterns. They're not just attacking randomly. They're looking for something." "What do you mean?" Katie pulled up a map on her tablet. "Look at this. Their ships are concentrated over these 12 locations." Red dots appeared on a world map. "These aren't just population centers. These are all sites where we've found ancient ruins." "Ancient ruins?" Jack frowned. "You mean like pyramids?" "Older than that. Much older. We've been finding these stone structures all over the world for decades. The government classified most of the discoveries. But Admiral, the aliens are scanning these exact locations with equipment we can't even identify." The floor shook as another city vanished from the map. This time it was Miami. 5 million people, gone in a flash of light. "Sir, incoming transmission," called out Lieutenant Danny Phillips from the communication station. "It's from the lead ship." The main screen flickered and showed a creature from humanity's worst nightmares. It stood 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales that gleamed like metal. Its eyes were yellow and cold, with pupils like knife slits. When it spoke, its voice was like rocks grinding together. "I am War Commander Zexthul of the Draconian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You will surrender all military forces immediately. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities." Jack stepped forward. "This is Admiral Morrison of Earth Defense. What do you want with our planet?" The alien's head tilted slightly. "Your planet holds secrets, human. Secrets that belong to us by right of conquest. You primitive creatures have stumbled upon relics of the past. You will turn them over to us, or watch your species burn." "We don't know what you're talking about." Zexthul's lips pulled back, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "You lie poorly, Admiral. Our sensors detect massive energy readings beneath your world. Ancient technology sleeps in your ground, technology that rightfully belongs to the strong. The bow." Transmission cut off. Immediately, the alien ships began moving toward the 12 locations Katie had marked on her map. Energy beams lanced down, but instead of destroying the areas, they seemed to be digging. "They're excavating," Dr. Alex Turner said in amazement. "They're trying to reach whatever is buried under those sites." General Pete Jackson's voice came over the secure line from his bunker in Colorado. "Admiral, I need to speak with you privately, now." Jack moved to a secured communication booth. "General, what's going on? Do you know what these aliens are after?" "Jack, there are things about our planet that are classified above your level. Things that go back further than recorded history. Those ruins the aliens are digging for, they're not human ruins." "What do you mean?" "I mean, we're not the first intelligent species to live on Earth. And if the aliens wake up what's sleeping, down there, God help us all." The ground trembled again, but this time it wasn't from alien weapons. Deep beneath the Earth, something was stirring, something that had been waiting for a very long time. Dr. Grace Mitchell watched her seismic monitors. With growing alarm, "Admiral, I'm reading massive underground activity at all 12 sites. It's like something is powering up down there." War Commander Zexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his excavation teams work. His species had conquered 47 worlds, but none had contained the ancient technology his sensors detected here. The energy readings were off the charts. "Commander," called his science officer, "we're detecting interference with our digging equipment. The deeper we go, the more our systems malfunction." Zexthal's eyes narrowed. "Increase power to the excavation beams." "Sir, that might not be wise. These readings, they're similar to the old legends. The stories of the ancients." "Superstition," Zexthal hissed. "There are no ancients, only the strong and the weak." But as his ships dug deeper into Earth's surface, strange things began to happen. Electronic systems failed. Soldiers reported seeing shadows that shouldn't exist. And somewhere far below the ground, ancient machines that had slept for 10,000 years began to wake up. The war for Earth had begun, but neither humans nor Draconians understood what they had truly started. Captain Ray Bennett woke up in a metal cage that hummed with electric energy. His head pounded and his left arm hung at a wrong angle. The last thing he remembered was his fighter jet exploding around him. Somehow he had survived the crash. The room around him was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls curved in impossible ways and seemed to shift color when he wasn't looking directly at them. Strange symbols crawled across surfaces like living things. The air tasted of metal and ozone. "You are awake, human." Ray turned to see a Draconian guard standing outside his cage. Up close, the alien was even more terrifying than on the transmission screens. Its scales looked like black armor and its yellow eyes never blinked. "Where am I?" Ray asked. "You are aboard the war vessel Crimson Talon. War Commander Zexthal wishes to question you about your planet's defenses." Ray laughed, which made his ribs hurt. "Our defenses? You wiped them out in the first hour." The guard's head tilted. "Not your weapons, human. Your other defenses. The old ones." Before Ray could ask what that meant, another Draconian entered the room. This one was smaller, with lighter-colored scales and nervous movements. It carried a device that looked like a cross between a medical scanner and a weapon. "Scan him," the guard ordered. The smaller alien ran the device over Ray's body. Lights blinked and the machine made soft beeping sounds. Suddenly it began screaming like an alarm. The small Draconian jumped back, dropping the scanner. "What is wrong?" The guard demanded. "His genetic structure, they cannot be right. The readings show markers that should not exist." "Explain." "He carries the bloodline signatures. The forbidden ones. The ones from the old stories." The guard's scales seemed to darken. "That is impossible. The ancients are gone. They have been gone for 10,000 cycles." Ray listened to this exchange with growing confusion. "What are you talking about? What ancients?" The guard looked at him with something that might have been fear. "Your species. Where did you come from? What is your true origin?" "Earth. We evolved from apes according to our scientists." The small Draconian made a sound like choking. No, that cannot be. The genetic markers are too pure, too concentrated. This one is not descended from primitives." Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, Dr. Katie Sullivan worked frantically in her makeshift laboratory. She had managed to salvage some Draconian technology from a crashed scout ship. What she found made no sense. "This is incredible," she muttered, studying alien DNA samples under her microscope. "Their genetic code has been artificially modified. Someone rewrote their biology." Her assistant, Dr. Mark Jones, looked over her shoulder. "Modified how?" "Look at these sequences here." Katie pointed to the screen. "These aren't natural evolutionary changes. Someone spliced new genes into their system, made them bigger, stronger, more aggressive, but also—" She paused, frowning. "Also what?" "Also more obedient. There are neural pathways here that look like they were designed to make them follow orders without question, like they were bred to be soldiers." "Soldiers for who?" Katie didn't answer. She was staring at a section of alien DNA that looked familiar. Very familiar. She pulled up a comparison chart on her computer and gasped. "Mark, look at this. This genetic sequence here in the Draconian DNA. It matches human genetic markers. Not similar, exactly the same. That's impossible. Unless—" Katie's voice trailed off as a terrible possibility occurred to her. "Unless humans and Draconians share a common ancestor, or unless one species created the other." Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Pete Jackson stood in a chamber that officially didn't exist. The walls were covered with symbols that predated any known human civilization. In the center of the room sat a massive stone chair carved from a single piece of black rock. "How long has this been here?" asked Colonel Lisa Harper, who had been brought in after her entire air squadron was destroyed. "We found it in 1952, Pete replied, "along with 11 other sites around the world. All of them contain technology we still don't understand." Lisa walked closer to the chair. As she approached, symbols on the wall began to glow with soft blue light. "General, it's reacting to me. It reacts to certain people. We call them candidates. About 1 in every 1,000 humans can activate the ancient machinery." "What does it do?" "We don't know. Every time someone sits in the chair, the entire facility goes dark for exactly 7 minutes. When the power comes back, the person is unconscious but unharmed. They never remember what happened during those 7 minutes." Lisa reached out to touch the chair's armrest. The moment her skin made contact with the stone, the entire room filled with light. Aboard the Draconian flagship, War Commander Zexthul paced his bridge like a caged predator. His excavation teams had been digging for hours, but the deeper they went, the more problems they encountered. "Report," he demanded. "Commander, our equipment keeps failing. Every time we get close to the energy source, our scanners shut down. Our digging beams lose power. It's like something is fighting us. Increase power to all systems." "Sir, we're already at maximum. Any more and we risk damaging our own ships." Zexthul's claws scraped against the metal railing. "What about the human prisoner? Has he revealed anything useful?" "That is complicated, Commander. The genetic scans show impossible results. He carries bloodline markers that match the old legends, the forbidden records." "Show me." The science officer activated a holographic display. Ancient symbols appeared in the air, glowing with soft red light. As soon as Zexthul saw them, his entire body went rigid. "Where did you find these symbols?" "In the human's DNA, Commander. They're written into his genetic code." Zexthul stared at the hologram for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Summon the Council of Elders, immediately." "Sir, the Elders haven't been awakened for centuries. The stasis protocols, do it now. If these symbols are real, if they're accurate, then we have made a terrible mistake. We haven't invaded a primitive world. We've disturbed the resting place of our creators." Back on Earth, the 12 excavation sites suddenly stopped their digging operations. Every Draconian ship pulled back their energy beams at the same moment. War Commander Zexthul had given the order to halt all operations until the Council of Elders could be consulted. But it was too late. Deep underground, ancient machinery that had slept for millennia was finally waking up. The digging had disturbed seals that were meant to last forever. Power flowed through circuits older than recorded history, and in facilities around the world, Humans who had never shown any special abilities suddenly found themselves drawn to rooms they had never seen before. Rooms containing stone chairs and glowing symbols. Rooms that were preparing to reveal the truth about humanity's real origin. Dr. Alex Turner felt the pull strongest of all. Without knowing why, he left his laboratory and walked toward the basement levels of his research facility. His feet seemed to know the way even though his mind didn't understand where he was going. He was heading toward a chamber that had been waiting for him his entire life. Lieutenant Danny Phillips crept through the shadows of the ruined Los Angeles skyline. His team of 12 Marines followed behind him, their faces painted black to blend with the night. The Draconian command ship floated 3 blocks away, its hull glowing with alien symbols. "Remember the plan?" Danny whispered into his radio. "Plant the charges on the support struts and get out. We have 5 minutes before the timer goes off." Sergeant Mike Torres nodded from behind a burned-out car. "What if their shields are still up?" "Then we die trying," Danny replied grimly. They moved like ghosts through the empty streets. The aliens had cleared out all the humans from this area, but they hadn't bothered to post many guards. Why would they? Human weapons couldn't hurt their ships anyway. Danny's team reached the massive landing struts that held up the command ship. Each strut was as thick as a subway tunnel and hummed with energy. The Marines began placing their explosive charges, while Danny kept watch. That's when something went wrong. As Danny pressed his hand against the alien metal to steady himself, the strut began to glow. Not with the usual alien colors, but with a warm blue light that seemed familiar somehow. The glow spread up the strut toward the ship above. "Danny, what did you do?" Mike hissed. "I don't know. I just touched it." The blue light reached the ship's hull, and suddenly every symbol on the vessel began flashing in sequence. An alarm started blaring, but it wasn't coming from the ship. It was coming from somewhere deep underground. Across the world, Dr. Grace Mitchell watched her earthquake monitors with growing amazement. Every seismic station on the planet was recording the same thing. A pulse of energy had originated somewhere in Los Angeles and was now spreading outward like ripples on a pond. "This is impossible," she muttered. "The pulse is traveling faster than any known seismic wave. It's like the entire planet is connected by some kind of network." Her assistant, Dr. Bob Carter, pointed at the screen. "Grace, look at this. The pulse is stopping at those 12 locations where the aliens were digging. It's like it's activating something at each site." Grace felt a chill run down her spine. "Get me Admiral Morrison on the phone. Now." In the underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Lisa Harper was still standing near the ancient stone chair when the pulse arrived. The moment it hit, every symbol on the walls exploded with brilliant light. The chair itself began to rise slowly from the floor, revealing that it was actually the tip of a much larger structure buried below. "General Jackson, you need to see this," Lisa called out. Pete Jackson ran into the chamber just as the floor began to split open. Ancient machinery, sleek and beautiful despite its age, rose from hidden compartments. The air filled with a low humming sound that seemed to vibrate in their bones. "How long has this equipment been down there?" Lisa asked. "We never knew it existed," Pete replied in wonder. "Our ground-penetrating radar never detected any of this." The stone chair was now clearly visible as the control seat of some kind of command center. Screens made of what looked like liquid light appeared in the air around it. Strange symbols flowed across the displays like water. "Someone needs to sit in it," Lisa said quietly. "Are you crazy? We don't know what it does." "General, look around you. This facility has been waiting for someone to activate it. The pulse that hit us came from one of our own people, Danny Phillips in Los Angeles. I can feel it somehow." "I know. It was him." Pete stared at her. "How could you possibly know that?" Lisa didn't have an answer. She just knew. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Danny and his team were running for their lives. The Draconian ship wasn't just alarmed anymore. It was in full retreat. The massive vessel was lifting off, abandoning its position for the first time since the invasion began. "Why are they running?" Mike shouted as they dove behind a concrete barrier. Danny looked back at the departing ship and noticed something strange. The blue glow he had triggered wasn't fading. Instead, it was spreading to other alien vessels in the area. One by one, the Draconian ships were powering down their weapons and pulling back from their positions. Aboard the flagship, War Commander Zexthul was in a state of panic. The Council of Elders had finally awakened from their centuries-long sleep, and what they told him chilled his blood. "The symbols are real," wheezed Elder Vractal, his ancient scales gray with age. "The genetic markers in the human prisoner match the forbidden records exactly." "What does that mean?" Zexthul demanded. "It means, young commander, that these humans are not the primitive species we believed them to be. They are the descendants of the ancients, the ones who created us, the ones who gave us intelligence, strength, and purpose 10,000 years ago." Zexthul felt his legs go weak. That cannot be. The ancients were gods. These humans are weak, primitive creatures. "No," said another elder. "They are sleeping gods, and we have just awakened them." On the main screen, reports were coming in from all 12 excavation sites. Ancient facilities were powering up everywhere. Energy readings were off the charts. And most terrifying of all, the humans were being drawn to these facilities like metal to a magnet. "Commander," called his science officer, "I'm reading massive power buildups at every site. These aren't just archaeological ruins. They're some kind of planetary defense network. Can we destroy them?" "Sir, the energy levels are beyond our ability to measure. If we fired on one of those sites, the feedback could destroy our entire fleet." Back on Earth, Dr. Alex Turner had found his way to the basement chamber he had never seen before. Like Lisa Harper, he stood before an ancient stone chair surrounded by glowing symbols. Unlike Lisa, he didn't hesitate. He sat down. The moment Alex made contact with the chair, his mind exploded with knowledge. 10,000 years of history flooded through his consciousness. He saw the rise and fall of a galactic empire. He saw his own ancestors, tall and proud, ruling over hundreds of worlds. He saw the great catastrophe that forced them to abandon everything and hide on a single forgotten planet. Most importantly, he saw the truth about the Draconians. They hadn't evolved into an aggressive warrior species. They had been created that way, genetically modified by humanity's ancestors to serve as the perfect soldiers, given intelligence and strength, but also programmed with absolute loyalty and an inability to question orders. The programming had lasted for 10,000 years. But now, with the ancient network awakening, that programming was starting to break down. Across the galaxy, other Draconian fleets received the same emergency signal that Zexthul's ships were broadcasting. The message was simple but terrifying. "The ancients have returned. All fleets retreat to home system immediately." But it was too late for Zexthul's armada. The ancient network was fully online now, and it recognized the Draconian ships for what they truly were. Not invaders, but lost children who had forgotten their way home. In facilities around the world, humans sat in stone chairs and learned the truth about their heritage. They were not the descendants of primitive apes. They were the heirs to the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. A civilization that had chosen to sleep rather than rule through fear. But now the long sleep was over. Captain Ray Bennett, still imprisoned aboard the Crimson Talon, watched in amazement as his Draconian guards began to change. Their aggressive postures softened. The cruel intelligence in their eyes was replaced by something else: confusion, fear, and strangest of all, recognition. "You," whispered the guard who had interrogated him. "You are one of the makers." Ray didn't understand what was happening, but he could feel it in his bones. Something fundamental had shifted in the universe. The balance of power was changing, and deep in space, ancient automated systems that had waited patiently for millennia began transmitting a simple message across the galaxy. "The heirs of Earth have awakened. The Empire will rise again." Professor Sam Bradley had spent his entire career studying ancient civilizations, but nothing had prepared him for what he found in the newly opened chambers beneath the pyramids of Giza. The walls were covered with writing that seemed to shift and change as he looked at it. "Dr. Nelson, are you getting this translated?" he called to his linguistic expert. Dr. Jennifer Nelson stood before a wall of symbols, her tablet glowing as translation software worked to decode the ancient text. Sam, this is incredible. It's not just one language, it's a combination of 12 different writing systems all woven together into something new. What does it say? Jennifer's face went pale as she read the translation. It's a historical record. It says that 10,000 years ago, Earth was the capital of an empire that spanned half the galaxy. The people who lived here weren't primitive humans. They were our ancestors, but they were more than we are now. Sam moved closer to read over her shoulder. More how? Enhanced. The text describes humans with extended lifespans, enhanced intelligence and abilities we would consider impossible. They ruled not through force but through wisdom and strategic thinking that made other species want to follow them. The translation continued to scroll across Jennifer's tablet. Listen to this part. When the great darkness came from beyond the rim, the Council of Earth decided that survival was more important than empire. They chose to reduce themselves, to become smaller and simpler, to hide among the stars until the danger passed. They made themselves primitive on purpose. Not primitive, dormant. Look at this section here. It talks about genetic locks placed on human DNA. Safeguards that would keep our true abilities suppressed until it was safe to awaken them again. Sam felt a chill run through him. The ancient network. It's not just defense systems, it's designed to unlock those genetic restrictions. Across the world, similar discoveries were being made in the other awakened facilities. Each site contained a piece of the same story. Humanity's ancestors had been the rulers of a vast galactic civilization, but they had chosen to sacrifice their power to ensure their species' survival. Commander Beth Adams stood in the Pentagon's Situation Room, watching reports flood in from around the globe. The Draconian invasion fleet was in complete disarray. Ships that had been ruthlessly efficient just hours before were now drifting aimlessly in orbit. "What's their status?" she asked Admiral Jack Morrison. "It's like they've forgotten how to fight," Jack replied, studying the tactical displays. "Their formation has completely broken down. Some ships are trying to leave Earth's orbit, but others are just sitting there. Any communication from their command ship? Nothing coherent. We're picking up fragments of transmissions, but they're all in some ancient language our computers can't translate." On the main screen, they watched as one of the smaller Draconian vessels slowly descended toward Earth. Instead of landing near a military target, it set down in an empty field in Kansas. The ship's weapons were completely powered down. "Sir?" called Lieutenant Tony Clark from the communications station. "We're getting a signal from that ship. It's on our emergency frequencies. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was different from the harsh tones they had heard from War Commander Zexathul. This Draconian sounded confused, almost lost. "Earth humans, this is Sub-Commander Kreltok. I do not understand what is happening to my crew. We came here as conquerors, but now we remember things that cannot be true." Beth stepped forward. "What kind of things?" "Memories of serving your kind, of being proud to fight alongside humans instead of against them. These memories feel more real than my own life, but they must be false. We are the superior species. We have always been the superior species." "Maybe you haven't," Beth said quietly. There was a long pause before Kreltok spoke again. "That is impossible. We conquered 47 worlds before coming to yours. Did you conquer them, or were you ordered to conquer them?" Another pause, longer this time. I was following orders. We always follow orders. It is our nature." "Whose orders?" When Kreltok finally answered, his voice was barely a whisper. "I do not remember. That knowledge is blocked somehow." War Commander Zexthul paced the bridge of his flagship like a caged animal. The Council of Elders had been reviewing the ancient records for hours, and what they found was destroying everything he thought he knew about his species. "The records are clear," Elder Vractul announced. Our species was created by the ancients to serve as their military force. We were given strength, intelligence, and an unbreakable drive to follow commands. But we were never meant to rule. That cannot be true, Zexathul snarled. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. We take what we want because we are strong enough to take it. No, said Elder Morthak, her ancient voice filled with sadness. We take what we want because we were programmed to never question the orders we receive. For 10,000 years we have been following the last commands given to us by our creators. Expand the empire, conquer new worlds, grow stronger. But the ancients are dead, are they? Elder Vraktul gestured toward the screens showing Earth below. Look at the power readings from their installations. Look at how our own people are reacting to their presence. Our genetic programming is breaking down because we are in the presence of our true masters. Zexathul felt something crack inside his mind. Memories that had been buried for his entire life began to surface. Images of proud service alongside humans. Of being honored for loyalty and courage rather than feared for brutality. Of being part of something greater than endless conquest. What were we before? He asked weakly. We were the guardians of the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known, and now it seems our long exile is finally over. On Earth, the humans who had activated the ancient chairs were beginning to change. Dr. Alex Turner found that he could process information at incredible speeds. Professor Sam Bradley discovered he could understand languages he had never studied. Captain Ray Bennett, even locked in his alien prison, felt his injuries healing at an impossible rate. Dr. Grace Mitchell monitored the seismic readings from her laboratory and gasped at what she saw. The energy signature from the 12 sites is forming a pattern. It's like they're all connected by some kind of underground network. Her readings showed energy flowing between the sites in complex patterns. But more importantly, the energy was flowing upward into space toward the Draconian fleet. It's not trying to attack them, she realized. The network is trying to communicate with them. Above Earth's atmosphere, the Draconian ships began receiving signals they hadn't heard for 10,000 years. Ancient codes that were embedded deep in their computers, sleeping programs that had waited patiently for this moment. One by one, the ship's weapon systems powered down. Their engines went into standby mode. Their shields dropped to minimum levels. The Draconian fleet was not surrendering. They were coming home. Captain Nina Ross worked frantically to decode the transmissions flowing between Earth and the alien fleet. As a Navy cryptographer, she had broken dozens of enemy codes, but this was different. The signals weren't encrypted. They were written in a language that her mind somehow understood, even though she had never seen it before. Admiral Morrison, you need to hear this translation, she called. Jack Morrison leaned over her shoulder to read her screen. The message was simple but shocking. Fleet Designation Serpent 7, you are hereby ordered to stand down from combat operations. Your service in exile is complete. Welcome home, my children. Welcome home. Who sent that message? Jack asked. Nina checked her instruments twice before answering. Sir, according to our tracking systems, that message came from inside the Pentagon, from this room, but no one here sent it. They turned to look at Commander Beth Adams, who was standing perfectly still with her eyes closed. When she opened them, they glowed with the same blue light that had appeared in the ancient facilities. The awakening is almost complete, she said in a voice that sounded like her own but older, wiser. Soon the children of Earth will remember who they truly are. High above them, War Commander Zexathul felt 10,000 years of programming finally break apart in his mind. For the first time in his life, he was truly free to choose his own path, and he chose to kneel. Colonel Mike Harrison felt the change happening inside his body as he sat in the ancient command chair deep beneath Mount Rushmore. Knowledge flowed through his mind like water through a dam that had suddenly burst open. He understood things that no human should know. Languages that had been dead for millennia. Technologies that seemed like magic. Colonel, your vital signs are off the charts, Dr. Helen Carter called from her monitoring station. Your brain activity is unlike anything I've ever seen. Mike opened his eyes and looked at her. For a moment, Helen felt like she was staring into the face of someone infinitely old and wise. The restoration is almost complete, Doctor. In a few more minutes, humanity will remember what we truly are. Around the world, the same transformation was happening to thousands of people. Anyone who had come into contact with the ancient facilities found their DNA rewriting itself. The genetic locks that had kept humanity dormant for 10,000 years were finally opening. Dr. Katie Sullivan watched in amazement as her research computers began displaying information she had never programmed into them. Star charts appeared on her screens, showing the locations of hundreds of worlds that had once been part of the human empire. "How is this possible?" she whispered. The answer came from her assistant, Dr. Mark Jones, whose eyes now glowed with the same blue light that marked the awakened. "The network isn't just on Earth, Katie. It spans the entire galaxy. Every world we ever ruled still has monitoring stations. They've been waiting for us to return." Above Earth's atmosphere, the Draconian fleet hung motionless in space. War Commander Zexthul knelt on the bridge of his flagship, no longer fighting the memories that flooded his mind. He remembered his true name now, not the military designation he had used for centuries. He remembered serving alongside humans with pride and honor. "My lord," he whispered into the communication system, speaking in the ancient tongue that had been forbidden for so long. "We have returned as commanded. What are your orders?" The voice that answered came from Admiral Jake Thompson, who stood in the Pentagon Situation Room with his consciousness expanded beyond anything he had thought possible. When he spoke, it was with the authority of someone who had once ruled. "Star Systems. Captain Zexthul," Jake said, using the Draconian's true name. "You and your people have served faithfully during our long sleep. The exile is over. It is time to come home." Tears ran down Zexthul's scaled face. For the first time in 10,000 years, he felt complete. "What of the other fleets, my lord? They still follow the old programming. They will continue to conquer worlds in your name. Send them the awakening codes. It is time for all our children to remember their true purpose." Within hours, messages began transmitting across the galaxy on frequencies that had been silent since the fall of the ancient empire. Draconian fleets that had been terrorizing distant worlds suddenly stopped their attacks. Their commanders found themselves remembering things they had thought were dreams, memories of serving something greater than endless conquest. On Earth, Captain Rick Morgan stood before a massive spacecraft that had risen from beneath the Nevada desert. The ship was sleek and beautiful, unlike anything humans had built in their recorded history. It was a vessel from the old empire, preserved in perfect condition for the day when humanity would reclaim the stars. "Are you sure about this?" asked his co-pilot, Lieutenant Amy Foster, as they prepared to board the ancient starship. Rick nodded. "The galaxy needs to know that Earth's children have awakened. Someone has to carry the message to our former worlds." The ship responded to Rick's touch like it had been waiting for him specifically. Systems that had slept for millennia came online with effortless grace. The navigation computer displayed star charts showing the locations of worlds that still remembered Earth as their capital. "Destination?" the ship's computer asked in perfect English. "Alpha Centauri," Rick replied. "Let's start with our closest neighbors." Back on Earth, the transformation continued. Humans who had once struggled with basic technology found themselves understanding machines that operated on principles beyond current science. Artists created works of impossible beauty. Scientists solved problems that had puzzled them for decades. But the most important change was in how they saw themselves. The fear and desperation that had marked humanity during the invasion was gone. In its place was quiet confidence and a sense of destiny fulfilled. Captain Ray Bennett finally walked free from his Draconian prison cell. Sub-Commander Kreltok, his former captor, now served as his guide through the alien ship. "I do not understand how we forgot," Kreltok said as they walked through corridors that had once seemed threatening, but now felt familiar. "How could an entire species lose their true history?" "Because you were programmed to forget," Ray explained gently. "Our ancestors knew that if you remembered your true nature while we were sleeping, you might have tried to wake us before it was safe. The programming was meant to protect both our species. And now Now the danger that forced us to sleep has passed. The great darkness from beyond the rim that our ancestors feared never came to this galaxy. We can return to what we once were. The Draconian ship's bridge was filled with former enemies working side by side. Human technicians helped their Draconian counterparts understand the ancient protocols that were being restored to their systems. There was no more talk of conquest or surrender, only reunion. Dr. Alex Turner stood in the main control chamber, beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching as displays showed the status of the awakening process around the globe. Millions of humans were experiencing the transformation, but it was happening gradually, safely. The ancient systems were designed to prevent the shock of sudden change from damaging human minds. "How long until the process is complete?" asked General Pete Jackson. "Another 6 hours for Earth," Alex replied. "But the real work will take much longer. We have to rebuild our civilization, reconnect with our lost colonies, and help our Draconian children readjust to their true purpose." "What about the other species in the galaxy? The ones the Draconians conquered?" Alex smiled. "They'll be freed as well. The Draconians weren't the only species we created to serve the Empire. There are others out there, all following programming. That's 10,000 years out of date. We'll need to help them remember their true roles as well." As Earth's sun set on the first day of humanity's return, the planet was no longer the same world that had been invaded that morning. Ancient cities rose from beneath the ground where they had waited in stasis. Technologies that seemed like magic to the primitive humans of yesterday became commonplace. Captain Rick Morgan's ship reached the edge of the solar system and activated its faster-than-light drive. As the stars stretched into lines around him, he sent a message on frequencies that had once carried the commands of emperors. "This is Captain Morgan of the Earth Restoration Fleet. The long exile is over. The children of Earth have awakened and are returning to claim their birthright among the stars." The message spread across the galaxy faster than light itself, carried by the ancient network that had waited patiently for this moment. On distant worlds that had been part of the old empire, automated systems began powering up. Monuments that had gathered dust for millennia began broadcasting the news. Humanity had returned. War Commander Zex Thul, now answering to his true name of Captain Zex Cthul, stood on the observation deck of his flagship and watched Earth turning slowly below. The world looked different now. Lights that had been hidden were shining again. Cities that had been ruins were rebuilding themselves. "What do we do now, my lord?" he asked Admiral Jake Thompson over the communication link. "Now we go home," Jake replied. "All of us. The galaxy has been without its guardians for too long. It's time to restore the peace we once brought to the stars." The Draconian fleet began moving away from Earth, but they were not retreating. They were beginning the long journey back to the worlds they had conquered, carrying with them the message of humanity's return and the promise of a better way. Behind them, Earth continued its transformation from a small, forgotten world into what it had always been meant to be, the heart of the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. The exile was over. The empire would rise again, but this time, it would be built on wisdom instead of force, on cooperation instead of conquest. The children of Earth had learned much during their long sleep, and they would not repeat the mistakes that had forced them to hide among the stars. The age of humanity had begun once more.